Hello, aloha everybody. This is Lusa Irebeña with Soul Hangout and the Hawk Mindset. And I'm here with Colleen Rich, who's a longtime friend. Actually, I met Colleen about 6 years ago. And we're here to talk about her crowdfunding campaign and her involvement as a light worker and as a light warrior. And at the same time, to talk about this journey that we are all doing, which is crowdfunding. Colleen has been somebody that I respect very much over the years because she's one of those what's the word? There was something they said in the internet the other day, which is cyber heroes. Cyber heroes that are, shifting the paradigm that, is out of the rat race for years, surviving, trying to, contribute her sole purpose to humanity. She's one of the most service-oriented people I know, thorough and conscientious as they get. And so, thank you so much, Colleen, for being here and for your contribution to humanity.
Well, thank you.
How are you today?
Introduction there. Thank you very much.
So, Colleen, I wanted to start a little bit your story from the beginning. How was it that, what were the elements or the events that led you to follow this path? Because you were a nurse, right?
Right. It started way back. I was a transplant cardiac RN, and sorry if my voice still isn't completely 100% yet. I was a transplant cardiac RN going into anesthesia, and that was my goal to, work that way in the hospitals, and I thought was helping people, and it would make a great salary. Anesthesia, it's a pretty good living, and that was my goals. And I worked at, years and years of training, no sleep. It used to be a joke who were the tiredest, the residents or us, and that's what my goal was. But shortly after 9/11, an auto accident changed all of that. It took away everything I had worked for. It took away my future, my dreams, everything that I ever had at that point. Everything changed. We didn't realize how bad it would be quite right away because your body has to shift, adjust, and all of this from injuries and what have you. But unfortunately, my body was nowhere near able to recuperate. So when we figured that out, that pretty much put me out of the workforce. I could never recover from that. It left me multiple spinal injuries, a head injury, left shoulder, both knees, right hip leg. It just was more than I could come back from. And for a person who used to play sports all the time and do everything and very active, it was very devastating to me. It took away everything that I planned to work with medicine and what have you. So for years,
wow.
I was on. Yeah, it was definitely, a change. What was it I was told? Somebody I was with would not go out in public with me, told me I was damaged goods and no way in hell they were going to be seen in public with me. And from that moment on, I decided that, I need to go this alone until I'm physically and financially able to be where I want to be in my head to pursue anything else. And
right.
So it went on, and for 5 years or more, I was on 15 of the most addictive meds known to man, and at extremely high doses. I have 1% of the population, most of them addicts, where I have an outrageously high tolerance to medications. I've been like that since a child. Mm-hmm. And what that allows is the fact that I always have to have very high doses and more frequently. So what they would do is it basically came down to only one doctor would work with me. And once I got to a point of being too high, we'd have to drop me off and then start over again. But, it got scary. And this is when I learned how it was like from being the person caring in the hospital for everybody to being the person as a patient in the hospital. And
yes, and let me interrupt here for just for a little while, because just a little thing, because I want to point this out, that your story is so much an American story. It's like you're one step of everything falling apart because this healthcare system, everything, right? So
yeah,
the part that I love to hear, and you're about to talk, is the part of how you see the system from inside and from the outside. And that's a very interesting point, because not many people have that experience. It's almost like the brain surgeon that has a stroke, and can finally experience what she's doing with its clients, right? It's kind of seeing the picture inside and outside. So please talk about that.
Right. While I was working in the hospitals on the unit, I would be the one fighting for the patient. They're going to send a patient out who can't even get out of the cab. I said, well, how do they get out? How do they care for themselves at home? And they're not healed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not they're ready to go. And that's not our problem. I said, does the cab driver, who takes them in? They go, nope, cab's not allowed to touch them. They have to crawl out or whatever out of the cabs and drag themselves into their house and care for themselves. So I was always the kind fighting for the patients, and they knew it. But then I became the patient. And I quickly learned how much the system can turn on you when you become the patient. At first they thought, we'll get you through this, but when it was really found out that there was no way they were going to get me through this, quickly I became basically the forgotten child who was treated like any other inner city person with nothing and just like the lost child. I was just basically a bad point. I learned how the system wouldn't give me treatments I needed because I didn't have the money. They gave me treatments and let my bills get to a point and said, oh, sorry, you've got to pay. I mean, I've got $30,000, $40,000 in medical bills that never were able to get paid. I mean, where was it going to come from? Of course, courts and the lawyers, they made sure they were paid, but they didn't care so much about my end and my, the hospital bills and my bills. And the hospitals, they often in nonprofit hospitals, they get recuperated from the government at the end of the year for bills unpaid. That's part of the benefits being a nonprofit for those that are. And many of my medical bills were at a nonprofit hospital. And, it just became a different story when you're the patient. I said, how do you expect me to pay these bills? I mean, it put me on disability. Didn't like it. And as you know, disability is not very much. The average rent now is disability, anybody's disability. So if you didn't have a house before, you're pretty much in trouble from the beginning. So for years and years I was and I, everybody forgot who I was, what I was. I was the A student, the golden child in the classes. I was top of my class. I was going into anesthesia. I was going to be one of the best, so on and so forth. And then I was just like, you know what, you're not going to do this anymore. Nobody talks to you. Nobody calls you. And, my brain, it didn't stop. I thought, well, what about if I go into this? What if I go into that? What if I just go in to be a doctor instead, which is what I was working my way up to. I had always thought as a child I'd be a doctor. Well, they just said, well, now you're too old and injured. Don't bother. We won't take you. And I was like, okay. So, my dreams got all over the place, right? And 5 years or so, 5, 6 years into the meds, I got to see firsthand how the medications can destroy your body, your personality, your thought process. I mean, it got to it was unbelievable. And
I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I slept all the time because I was doped up half the time. But, again, the meds don't last long on me, so I'd be taking the medications every 4 hours. I'd be given the doses, and then they'd say, oh, we have to take you off this med. We have you at too high of a dose. I said, fine, I'll go off it. Oh, no, we can't let you do it yourself. You may go into seizures and die. We have to take you into this place and do it. Okay. Well, they put me there once, and I never, ever would return again. And it was, it was like that. Well, it came to the point, and I think this is around the time that we started to meet, but after I went through this, what I decided was, the medications, they had me on antidepressants because you've got to be depressed. You've lost everything. Here's to sleep. The pain. The pain is something that has never gone away. Every day of my life, I'm in massive pain. I just am. Massive headaches. I deal with this all the time on every daily basis. I wake up that way, sleep that way. So I know my limits now when I work around it. Sometimes it's hard because you feel like your body's 100, but your spirit's, 20. What do you do?
Yeah.
Feeling the body is weak, yes. So, I decided this was enough. What happened is, and I've never told this story to anybody, but what happened is I saw how the medications had destroyed me. My liver was going, everything was going. I mean, I could tell you all the severe medications I was on. You'd be like, wow, they don't give 1 or 2 of those to somebody, and I had 15 of them. And I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want the pain, but this is what the medications do. You know how now that they're advertising how these medications will give you suicidal thoughts?
Yes.
That's right. Totally messes with you. Well,
that's the liability. That's why they're doing it, because they know it's true.
Right. Well, what happened was the meds had messed with me so bad that I finally had enough, and I had a gun, and I was ready to use it. And and when this happened, that, I had this one dog, my favorite Maltese puppy named Lady. The one dog you'll get in your lifetime that takes on so much for you, that one special one, everything perfect. And she got extremely sick as a young dog, 4 years old. And I'm dealing with the issue of my gun thing. My dog is sitting here, suddenly he's starting to die. Nobody knew what was going on, why, how. And so days later, I finally get to the chance of taking care of my dog, and, nobody thought she'd live and overnight, and I kept her alive, and we went on. And from that point on, I said, this is enough. This is stupid, but this is what meds do to you. They mess you up. And enough. And what I started to do is I still waited because, it's like, I'm not sure I want to do this yet. I'm not sure I want to do this yet. So come that fall, I decided it was enough. And I was going to go off these medications, every single one of them. My doctor knew it. We had discussed it. And so I had a date at a certain point that it was just going to have to go. Basically, I let the meds run out, and most of them ran out, and that's when I did it. And I went off half of them first because I knew it would kill me if I went off all of them at once. And then I went off a few more, and then the last ones, which happened to be the worst. And it was about 3 3/4 months of going through these massive withdrawals. And you can imagine constant vomiting, diarrhea, holding no food, nothing's going in, and if it is, it's coming right back up. And this is what happened. 3 3/4 months later, I end up in the hospital after seizing in my house, going through all this. And they say, well, first off, we'd like to commend you, but secondly, you're in trouble, and we need to deal with this now. And so, we had to get my electrolytes. My heart was doing funny things. My body was completely dehydrated. I had dropped over 50 pounds. All the things that go through. And I knew, say, oh, this was addiction. No, really, it was always about pain for me. And from that day, I had interest. I've been around narcotics all the time. Doesn't faze me. Never did. It was always about the pain. But once it got to the point my body kind of was dependent on it, I had to get past that. And I have to say, been one of those regular people in a rehab where, they're in their 30 days, that's it, and then they're back to it, I could understand, because your legs twitch, you've got, nerve endings firing everywhere. I mean, these are all part of withdrawal. And I went through, because it was so long of a withdrawal for me, because I had so many medications, that by the time I physically got done with it all, I was past all that. So for me, it was like, finally, it's past. And I didn't have to go through all the other problems that come while you're going through the withdrawals over so many days, because I was well past that at 3 3/4 months. So at that point, my mind was racing. It's like I came out of a fog. I had been in this foggy cloud for like years. And I thought, okay, well, now I've got all this energy. My mind is starting to wake. It's literally like I just came out of a deep, deep sleep. And even my lawyers a couple years later said, oh, my God, you just sound like a whole different person. Wow, best thing you could have ever done. But yet you're the ones that were pushing patients on me, So I got done with that. I had this energy, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to stay down forever. It's been a waste of years. It really aged me. It really killed me, especially the withdrawals. I started eating right. Matter of fact, I started eating in general. But I started eating healthier. I started teaching myself the internet. Back then, I bought myself a computer for my birthday. It was it. And, I was almost out of everything. I was out of money. I figured this is my last shot. I got to learn how to work an internet, work out of the house. So I put a little bit I had into a computer. I taught myself internet marketing, and around that time is when you and I met.
Exactly.
It was getting into the internet marketing world around the 2008 time period. Right, and so I taught myself that. I taught myself business, finance, the economy, and a few years went by, and we all talked, and then we discovered that we all had some similar beliefs. One, we didn't believe in the system anymore. We knew that the system always turned its back on you, and we knew that we had to do everything independently, and now that we had more, and there was more in my life in the past that taught me this, of course. So that's why I was able to handle it so much better. But it came to the point now where we all started talking, and then I started getting into more finance and business and economics, and I found more of the internet marketers were too. And then we went on to other things, and down the road years later came the Nibiru scare and all the stuff that went on about that, and then, of course, the currency investments. And then I found many more of us were in the currency investments, if you will, and that many of us had the same beliefs again, and we had that alternative side to us, and that was the light worker, light warrior side. And it was through that whole Nibiru scare time period that I started to wake up and realize what was really going on. Now, before I was just so busy, I couldn't have seen anything. If I had stayed in the medical background, I would have never, ever woke up and saw all of this. I was too busy. The system keeps your mind so busy, exhausted.
Yeah, that you raise a very important point there, because I always say that the currency, you're talking about investing in currency, things are changing so much. And the reality is that the currency of the 21st century is time. Because if you have the time, the thing is that in the 20th century it was money. And it's changing so fast. But the reality is that in the 20th century you needed like a building, an establishment to create a business. And you needed money to buy the bricks, right? Brick by brick, or build, the walls. Right. Well, now you have to create a system, right? And to do that, you need time because you need to learn how to do it and adapt it and align it with your soul purpose or soul contract or mission, right?
Right.
So it's so fascinating that you're saying this, because it really is true. It's very difficult for people to even, grasp any of these things if they are working 9 to 5. I mean, you were working even more than that. But 9 to 5, even the rat race, they're exhausted. They get back, they eat, they take care of the kids, the movies, the TV, whatever. And then, there's no time for any of that. No time to even see.
No, and the average person, we all know, works much longer than that. And the jobs require it. I mean, people are working 12-hour-plus days, sometimes 16, and that's just what's required. They're so exhausted, then they have to deal with their families, which they rarely see, and that goes on and on. Well, there's no time. There's no time to think outside the little box that the system has created for you. So at the same time, the accident took everything away from me. It also allowed me to come into this new world. So everything happens for a reason. Now, around that time period there, where 2008, 2009 time period is when I completely lost everything, literally, because any funds, any money, everything was just gone. And, I had come out of the withdrawals, everything was gone. I dealt with it all. I was very open and explained everything to everybody, and they're like, wow, you're like a whole different person, I heard constantly is, you're just different. There's just something, you're a whole different person. And this is what I heard even after the accident. But understand, head injuries cause problems. But they also said I was a whole different person after the accident. Now, so you go through this. I lost everything, my car, everything. So for 5 years I had no car, but that didn't stop me. I knew that my way for me with my injuries to do what I had to do had to be, something I could do. And so I taught myself all this stuff. But at that same point in time when everything was collapsing in 2008 and 2009 and on through, I did the like I said, I taught myself the internet marketing, computers, codes, business, economics, finance. We followed a lot of that stuff. And then we started, I think it was, 11, that we started to get into the currencies. And a lot of us did. And we waited.
And you were in Michigan, right? In Detroit?
Right. Shortly after 9/11, and you could imagine that half of our hospital staff worked from Canada. They were Canadians. So at that point in time, we really, really, really needed our staff. And then on 10/4/01, I get into this major accident, and that changes everything for me. And now they're short me too. But we were working very long hours because we had no staff. And all the rules for hospitals kind of changed temporarily right there because they did the best they could with the staff they have. And that's what happens in national crises. And there's nothing you can do about it. So I was in Michigan. I'd been there, went there and moved up there from Florida. I went there. I went to school. I traveled the whole country for the most part. Lived up and down the East Coast. The problem is I don't remember anything. My memory was pretty much wiped out except for just the past recent years. Like all my medical training was there, but everything else was gone. And people were like,
wow, that's amazing. That's what we were talking about the other day, that you don't remember your childhood because of that?
Right. There's so much I don't, and they don't get it. They say, oh, you just lose your short term. Well, I lost that too. And without a short term, you don't have a long term. But also for my case, I lost everything. Now, they say it's very rare it happens, but it's been known to. And I've had people argue with me. I said, are you trying to tell me what I know and don't know? Seriously?
Yeah, that's the worst part of about the medical profession right now. It's like it's like like you don't know anything and it's your body. I mean, it's like, come on, please,
right?
And
they tried to tell me, oh, you didn't. Yes, it's gone. Hate to tell you, contrary to your whatever book beliefs, there is a real world out there, and this real world says, I don't remember anything. Hell, I didn't even know who the presidents were. I just knew of Clinton only because of the scandal on the TV. It was the only reason I knew of that. You need some help. So what happened with injuries is either over time you recover or you don't, or you get parts and pieces. So for years, I would flashbacks. I would get constant deja vus, flashbacks, things that would come in, or part of the thought would start to come in, and somebody'd say something, and it would be gone, and then I'd get angry as could be, because why did you have to speak? Let me get that thought. They could start to tell when something was coming in my head, and they'd just all go silent, But what happened while the flashes stopped, and there was no more memory, and some things would come, some things would go. It seemed like I wasn't sure it was even my memories, like it wasn't my life. Like maybe it was a dream.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That must be very intense.
Right.
Wow.
I remember the Elvis because, that must have been a big scene, and I remember that. I remembered a few things that happened, but it really went for years and years. And to this day, I'll still start to get a flashback, and a lot of times now it doesn't completely come through. But certain things, or like I know things, but I don't know why. I know that I was in state. I know what's.
Well, I imagine if you were saying that it's like living. I imagine if you're experiencing it, it's almost like you don't have a reference anymore, right?
Right, because
you don't have a point of reference anymore. So it's almost, in a way, it's an amazing experience for the spirit, because it's kind of like you're totally creating life in the present moment as you speak. It's kind of like you're renewing, and it's like a constant rebirth in the present moment because there's no reference, right?
Right, and think about it. I have like zero memory, and what's coming through I'm not even sure is mine. But everything happens for a reason. So
yes.
My thought is people would get back either no memory, or they would have constant brain problems, and you'd see those people, and you think that there's something really wrong. Well, there is. It's called a head injury. But for me, I still see words sometimes different than on that piece of paper than somebody else would. I see words different. And I'll keep seeing it different on that same page until you give me a whole different page. For some reasons, I'll see words. I still have some short-term. I got a lot of sticky notes in my life. But what I found is that teaching myself and putting myself back to school started to increase my brain activity.
Yes, expand it. Oh, my goodness, exactly, because you're recreating yourself. Wow.
Right. So I forced my brain to have to work instead of say, woe is me, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit on the couch on disability and do nothing the rest of my life. To me, that wasn't action. It was driving me insane. I sat on a chair on a computer for a long time, but, and I did these things, and I'd take my dog out for a walk and whatever. So, in my family still, my one sister understood, but my mother and brothers and whoever, they never understood. Well, don't you remember where this is? And I'm like, no, I don't. What part of that can't you quite comprehend at the moment? No, I don't. Why don't you to this reunion? Well, I've never went to a reunion. Why would I start now? Now I don't remember anybody. Like walking into a room of people I don't know, all strangers. None of that amuses me. And they're like, but you might remember something. And I said, what? I said, really, what part of high school was ever good for anybody who's a cop's kid? Not much.
Wow.
Get their butts kicked, everything else. But there were a few families of cops kids in the school at that time. But things happened, and we had 8 kids in our family, and things were different. But my thought is maybe I don't want to remember. Maybe I was a really big ass. I don't know.
That's such a good point. This is exactly the point, that when you understand that things happen for a reason and there is a big picture, and when you look back, I'm 65, and I look at the dramas in my life, it's always like so much stuff. They happen for a perfect reason. It's like, and I couldn't see then, of course, right?
Right, and you can't. But maybe it was just so much bad stuff. We had a hard life. We really did. And my dad died young. And life was hard. It just was. And maybe it was just what I didn't need taking up my mind space at this point in time. Now, I've told reasons for this happening, and walk-ins are part of it, and that's something that can be discussed later, but I've been told that. And, so whatever reason it happened, but I had to make terms with this down the years, and I did. It's like, you know what, maybe it's something I didn't want to remember. Maybe it was just miserable. Who cares? I don't care. It's done. Come. See it, I move forward. I don't want to spend more time on this. I made peace with it. Everybody else is trying to tell me I want to remember this and that. And I really, you know what? It's a busy world now. I
Yes, you better don't. If you have an empty brain, it's great, to embrace the present and the future. Wow.
So, we went on, and we get to about 2011, and the Nibiru scares come out. And I start reading, discussing, learning, and we're all in this currencies and investments and stuff. And I start to come into a few people through some of the forums and chats that we're all in. And we see that there's a distinction. There's the people who are more light-orientated and the people who are more worldly or 3D orientated. And we started, all of a sudden I started getting pulled the other way. I started asking questions. And when I started asking questions, I came across two teachers, friends of mine, which I'll just refer to them by their call names, which is Goldpeg and Jules. And I started talking, especially to Goldpeg. We would talk and talk. And she would teach and explain and talk to me. And everything just seemed to make sense to me, and like I just got it. Like, it's odd. I knew it, but I didn't know I knew it, but I had a knowing. And everything made perfect sense to me, and everything was clear. Maybe that's why I needed the empty brain. Everything just place. And for months we did this, but while we started to do it, I got a call that my mom wasn't expected to make it the next couple nights into Thanksgiving. So I got my dog. She's lived 4 more years beyond supposedly dying, so now she's 8. And I take her to the vet to watch her, the only person I trust, and I fly home the next day. And, my mom's actually in a chair and up and about. You know how you can get up and down real quick when you're getting to that point. I find out, we don't know. She was on her deathbed, and all of a sudden she's up. I think that was for me, my sake. So I get there. A couple days later, she absolutely crashes. Like, she had her awake time to say goodbye to everybody. And we talked. And then I get a call, November 22nd, from my vet. All of a sudden, my dog is crashing. And I get a second call an hour later. There was no way nobody could save her. She was taking her last breath in the cage. She literally crashed. And she went on to spirit, and I was devastated, The next,
I can't even imagine.
Right? I go see my mother. She's not good that day. She's not good the next day. And they asked me, will they increase the morphine dose? I said, really, people? If she's in pain, give it to her. She's not, living. And for that little bit of, for people who don't know, morphine fights for oxygen receptors on the red blood cells, as does oxygen. But in cases where people are in pain and dying, to let them live in pain for an extra hour or day is completely useless and cruel, in my opinion, versus just giving them enough pain to, bite the pain. Now, my mom was a very strong person. She never wanted to be in a home, never wanted to do anything. Now, she had just retired, so this is not an old woman. She just retired. And so she just retired, thinks she's going to do whatever she can do with the funds she has. I mean, she was only 42-ish when my dad died. She just retired, and she's on her deathbed. And, of course, from what cancer. They found it. It spread. It was too late. It was a matter of a very short time. And they call me and say, she's not going to survive. It went to her brain. We found it, and now it's too late, of course. And nobody knew anything was going on. So anyways, I got to say, hey, give it to her. It's not like she's surviving it. And then, of course, with patients who get sick like this, the lungs start to fill up, and which they did, and usually die from the offset symptoms or side effects or whatever of the disease. And in this case, between the tumor they found in her lung, the tumor in her brain, and God knows where else, and the pneumonia that kicked in, she passed that night. So I lost my dog, my mom, all suddenly in the 2 days of each other, within 28 hours of each other. So
wow.
I was quite angry, quite devastated. I was just starting to wake up, just starting to talk to people within a month or two, and this happened. So my angry self, I had to deal. I was just starting to wake up. And me and Goldtag and several others, we just continued the conversations once I got past it. I mean, I was devastated. It's cold winters. I can't get outside very much. It hurts me.
I remember you went into hibernating that winter.
Right. There was no reason to walk. It's cold. 40 below doesn't amuse me it hurts my injuries. It hurts me. I'm stiff like a board. It hurts. And so I just tried to survive, and I learned all I could, and I'm still, hurt and devastated, and this goes on. It's not easy to get over something like that. And I'm learning can. And I'm going through all this, and I think that's what made me, why the awakening happened then, because it gave me something to do during that time period. And I understood everything. I understood that it's not somebody's bad or good or did this or did that, but everything's an experience. These are all experiences.
Right.
And it's not,
that's the key. Mm-hmm.
And it's not like my mom, my dog, or my friends, or whoever in your family dies is just gone and gone forever. They went through their experiences. They're probably part of your soul group, soul family. You will see them again. They're more than likely guiding you. And it's all experiences that we go through. So it gave me a completely different perspective on things. Understand that.
I love it. Yeah, you know how I learned that one? I learned through having a poster of Albert Einstein's quote that says, knowledge is only experience. Knowledge is only experience, which means there are no good or bad experiences, just knowledge. I love that. I love that. Yeah, very true. Crucial piece of information, yes. So go on.
So, it's all good, bad. It's whatever's in your soul contract for you to go through each other, to put each other through. We're all here to learn lessons through experiences to increase our evolution even faster than other beings that might have this opportunity. So, with a science background, my mind works a little differently anyways. A science mind is different. Like you see some engineers, their minds are a little different. So I'm kind of wired a little differently. And I just don't take things so personally. Everybody gets emotional, upset. I'm sorry, that just doesn't come from me.
That's the other thing that's really crucial, yes.
Right. Yeah. So I saw everything differently, and I woke up so fast. And I had people who had known, talked to me for months before, but they saw how fast I woke up, and they had been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they still didn't have a grasp on it, but yet I'm teaching them. Like I have this information somewhere in my DNA cells or somewhere, but
of course.
Right, but it's coming out, and I understand everything very clearly. I get it. It just is something I know. It was no problem. And I started getting contacts about things. I have sources that I can never talk about that gave more information that, of course, I put out on my blogs and sites that I run. And, I went through my waking time period of adolescence and childhood. I made my mistakes in the beginning because, like everything, we start out somewhere and then we grow from that. And I had my awakening time period, but I went like from an infant to an adult in the matter of months. And most people it take many, many years. And people were just, anyway, so I go forward with that. And, so we fast forward 2013, or, well, actually, at the oil spill, we all had contacts, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. We all have friends, contacts everywhere, because that's what we do in the internet world. And the Gulf oil spill happens, and I hear from all my friends down here how bad it's been. And the thing is even where you touch the oil, the scare itself stopped people from coming down, which devastated people, families, businesses, nonprofits, individuals. They lost all their incomes. They lost their way of making money. They lost their food. They lost, way they feed their family. They lost everything. And so, and I heard about it. And then a year later, I was like, wow, I wish I was down there to help you guys. But, of course, I've lost everything. I barely survive every month. I was looking for the $5 at the end of the month just to eat, or just to feed my aunt. And so it was like this for years and years. And my friends would be like, how can you stand this? How can you stand this? And I said, you know what, if I let it all just bother me, I'll just be as miserable as the rest of you. So I don't let it bother me. See, once, my friend pointed out who was losing his job constantly with the big three, 10 times. It's just they started getting rid of the people that were getting close to 50, the people who were making bigger money, and they wanted to replace them. Now, remember, in Michigan, also the big three collapsed, and they had many positions. Up there was complete devastation. So I understood devastation. The people lost their jobs, their homes. They couldn't find a job now because they're 50, right? Or they're 48 or 49 or whatever. So, or they're 60. So they took all their jobs, all their retirements, they're gone. Their retirements are gone. Everything's gone. I lived in the third richest county in the nation, and the rich people lost their money as well. So in this case, it wasn't how the old adage of shit rolls downhill. In this case, it went uphill, because when the little guy loses money, eventually the big guys are going to lose money, because the middleman loses and the big ones lose. So everybody's up there. And I understood very much about loss. And my friend tells me, he goes, your electricity's turned off, your heat's turned off, your internet's turned off, you don't have a car, you don't have money to eat, and you're about to get evicted. And I looked at him and I said, so what's the problem? There's only one way to go, up, and that's where I'm headed. Nowhere else to go but up, so it's only going to get better. So angry, he couldn't make me as miserable as him. And eventually he ended up moving. He ended up losing his, he ended up getting evicted. And I ended up being able to survive. I was able to get everything paid, turned back on, whatever, sold things. You don't hold on to material things. They're just things. They're just stuff.
Yes, I agree.
And I just went on from there. So at that point, I just kept, going and going forward. And anyway, so that's, when I lost stuff and it got really bad. But we come into, like, the oil spill happens. I talked to my friends about this, and it's horrible. I still talk to them. I kept in contact. Everything was bad. And I heard how my friends, who I became, talking to all the time, how now they're going through, it's years later, a couple of years past this oil spill, and, they've lost everything. They've lost their homes, so now more homes were foreclosed on. They've lost their businesses. It's devastating these states, right? So we get into 2013 here, last year, and one of my internet friends contacts me and says, this company, which I can't mention, is looking for people to go down and help with the Gulf oil spill and help the people who were devastated by this. And to me, it made perfect sense. Now, I've lost my mom. In the spring, I'll get back to that one, but, to me, it makes perfect sense. One, I left the ocean. It drove me insane. I missed the ocean so bad. My screensavers, everything I had water on it. We had a lake, which I couldn't get to for years, but, it got to the point I'd go down there. and I take pictures. I said, this is going to be my water. It's going to be until I have my ocean again. And so for me, it hurt me. Everything hurt. I had no ocean. It was the place I was living in was the owners, the corporations that owned them just got greedy. They ran them down. They raised the prices. I'm like, I'm going nowhere up here. And take the chance and let me get down there and see if I can help some people. Now, they said we could do it from our house, but we knew that wouldn't really work as well. And many of those people didn't stay in it. But I decided, you know what? Let me see what I can do to get the funds to get down there. Of course, having the funds was the interesting part. Well, as it happens, we end up with another death in my family. My uncle, who was actually raised with my older brothers and sisters, he was only 53. And so we end up with that death, and he was not married. My aunt's not married. My brother's not married. I'm not married. We end up with that death as well, but he has no family, so the money goes to the siblings. Well, my mother has passed, so the money came to us. Not that any of that's anybody's business, but so you understand how that operates. And, so I'm thinking, okay, if I have any chance of doing anything, now's the time. So I packed up my life. I came down to Florida, and I stayed around wherever I could, and it's been a few months now, and I started helping people right out of the first place I was at, a hotel I was at. I started helping people, doing what I could. I knew I had so much funds. That was it. And I found a place to stay. Through people I was helping, they all started to work together. They understood I wasn't here playing games. I wasn't here to have a party or sit on the beach and, whatever. So I started getting the help I needed as far as finding places to stay. But it's been a struggle. Granted, this is a tourist town, and this is where they make their money. So I found a place. I started, trying to get to people. I started talking to them. I started doing what I was here to do. BP is a corporation that makes trillions of dollars a year, like every other company that deals with petroleum, oil, what have you. So the Gulf oil spill to me was like, you know what? You did this. You knew what you were doing. You didn't really care that you devastated a lot of people. We see these sinkholes in Louisiana from whatever, the fracking, the sinkholes. We see the caverns. We see the damage up and down. And the way I saw it is, big companies caused this. Big companies can pay for this. You took a lot from a lot of people. You destroyed a lot of people's lives. I had friends that now I came down to help, and I wasn't hearing from them. And I thought, okay, let me veer this way and wait till I hear from them. And here I find out they're going through a divorce. They couldn't survive it. I had other friends that, they lost their homes and their complete businesses. Then I get down here, and I find out that friends of friends who were saving the dolphins, well, they got sick, and their doctors told them, if you don't leave the ocean, you will not survive this. And they had to lose, thing they ever loved and move inland, move up the state, if you will. Other people have come to me, have been here, and they've told me how they're coughing up blood. Some of the boat captains and such, people working on the beaches who are just beach workers, not really cleaning up, but were there all the time, how they were sick, how everything from respiratory to sinuses to rashes to coughing up blood, and it's just starting to come about, and it's only getting worse, And I thought, this isn't good either. Now we're taking lives, now we need to do something about this. So I've been down here. I used everything I had. I figured it wouldn't hurt, to get out of the winters and come down and help people. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I am part of international relief teams. And what these do in Doctors with Borders is when there's devastation, we go down to help these devastations wherever they are. A problem for me always was the finance at that point because I had lost everything, although I still hold my medical license. And so I thought, well, this is the best way I can help people. It helps fight, the big money that's trying to take so much from the people. I'm going down. I did. I've seen so much more atrocities down here. I see people lied to, bullied, stolen from, people told that they could only get, retribution this way when they lost money in 2, 3, 4 ways or 5 ways. People who are going to be sick the rest of their lives. And,
yeah, you're sick is another one. It's like so many layers of this.
Yeah, there's so many layers, and there's so many. Let's just say that in this lawsuit, the average man will not win, but we can help him win as much as we can, right? And the ocean is so devastated. I've seen over here, it's not so bad where I'm at the moment, but if you go west, and my friends take pictures and they post them all the time, or people I know, or acquaintances, and they put these pictures up, and you'll show. There is still no ecosystem in those areas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. You'll see that the dolphins now are sick and that this is related to the disbursement that was used. You'll see that the chemicals that were used. You'll see that there's no birds in certain parts, no ecosystem at all. Where their life is taken from one spot, the life eventually follows the chain, the food chain and what have you in the ecosystem, and it eventually destroys everything. But there are, if you get an area before a forest fire or a tornado and then looking at it afterwards, that complete devastation, and that's the way these areas are still at. The seafood, obviously if the dolphins are sick, you don't think it's affecting the rest? I mean, you're seeing them.
I know. It's like the same, the fish and the seafood. My goodness, all over the place.
Yeah, they come up on the beach in pieces, and I'm like, really, this ain't right? I had somebody tell me, I was doing a gig over here on the beach in west over here in this part of the Pensacola on the west side, and there's dead turtles and fish still coming up on the beach, and I'm like, this is not right. This is not right. And I'm telling them, it's not. You're right. It's not right. Dead fish and turtles should not be coming up on the beach while you're doing a gig. You're right. And, so these are the things that are still going on. People are still, either they don't know that there's, money and retribution waiting for them for what they lost, or they just don't know what to do, or they're scared. They're just tired of fighting. And, maybe somebody with fresh blood has come in. I've been helping as many as I can. Of course, it takes a little work on their part. It'll be amazing to me how many people will tell me that 10, 15 minutes of paperwork isn't worth $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and I just shake my head. Like, really? 10, 15 minutes of paperwork's not worth that to you? I know a lot of people that really could use that money right now, but you do realize that this goes back to the main company if you don't do this, right? And, I just tell them, these are your options. I can't make your decisions for you. But, and it does take time sometimes. Some of these claims and people, it takes effort. But now it's gotten to the point where people are they don't have the records. What was good enough for the IRS is suddenly not good enough to file claims now. I mean, that's not right. If it's good enough for the IRS.
Wow. Yeah.
So the banks have closed up when everybody lost everything, right? Or they got bought out. The banks are telling people, I'm sorry, we don't have to keep your records more than 5 years, so we didn't, and we're not giving it to you. So now they can't get this information, and they know they can't get it. And so it was anything they could do to devastate the little man to not pay out. And so what I'm trying to do is help as many people who can do the work and get the documents that they need, get these claims in. At the same time, I'm going to start working on some of the medical as well. We have the platform in, but that only goes until February of 2015. But we're just down here, I'm doing as much as I can. It's all I do all day long, all night long. is talk to people and let them know, by the way, hey, this is what I'm here to do, and this is what I can see that you're eligible for, what else is it that you might have been doing or had at that time that we can prove? And, 90% of the people I get in touch with, they're like, yeah, let's do this, because
wow.
They don't want it. But like I said, there's those few that are just like...
Well, it's about accountability, right? You said it very well. If they created this, they should compensate. They're the ones who created it. That's pretty simple. If you do it yourself, they would be after you anyway,
Right.
But it's the accountability. And it's important, this process, because that's how the paradigm is going to shift, is by taking these actions that are real, to rescue ourselves. Is how you said it before. You can be the victim, or you can be an assertive action, that will contribute to change the paradigm. It really is the two options.
Right.
And the way to fight this, it's like that, Actually, if you think about it, there's these lawsuits all over the place, all over the world, against the Bushes, against everybody. People think it's not important. It is important because it's setting a precedent, and it is important because the more they come, the more that we debilitate this fake system that's basically, abusing their power rather than contributing, to the best of all and free will.
Exactly. And, and the way I saw this was my one way I could help people. I could help people fight back against the big guy and big business. And to me, it just made sense. And so it was just the only way at the moment I could, outside of doing stuff on websites or what have you, but the only way at the moment that I could come down and help as many people as I could, because we knew this thing was only going to go so long.
Right.
It has been expanded because of the appeals in the system, and it will go past 6 months past the last appeal. There's appeals in the system. So we know this is going, 9 to 12, 18 months, probably 8. So we're trying to constantly get to and reach as many people as we can and help them. A lot of them just didn't know what to do. They tried to do it. They were overwhelmed with the paperwork. They don't understand it. Team of with the company I work with, we have a team of lawyers, accountants, office people like me. And so, we have everything. It's all we did was class action. So we have everything we need, and we're very good at what we do. So this is how I'm able to help the people, because I partnered with this company. And what I'm trying to do is just, like I said, reach as many as I can to help them fight back. So many don't know what they have or what their rights are. They've been lied to. They've been bullied. They've been, abused in some way or another. I heard every nightmare story you can imagine down here. Some of them are very sick. There's a lot of fear of people, their grandchildren being sick. Right. If you go down and take a submarine to the bottom of that ocean, you will find a lake of oil sitting at the bed of the ocean. And disbursements are still in there.
There's something that it always, I am so grateful for your work, because here's what happens is that, the oil, I am concentrating in other ways to, with my own sole purpose to contribute, to humanity. And the oil spill is something that, in my mind, when I think about it, it's like a black stain that it's like imprinted in my soul. It hurts a lot, but there's not much I can do about now. But I know that eventually, with the new energies, it's going to be taken care of, because we are already testing some things that are actually working, even in Fukushima with Keshe Foundation and other people. The point is that in the meantime, we need to take a stand. and we need to take action, and we need to help it's a good way to contribute to the cause by helping the victims right now. So if I feel like the oil spill is a very big thing in my soul, and there's very little I can do right now, funding your project, it is basically something that is a gift that will give me this sense of, okay, at least I'm contributing. I have a message. I have an ambassador there that's working for all of us. I'm contributing to that. That's why I think it's very significant. So the reality is that let me just finish here. It's only that basically, you run out of money and you are not done with your task of this project, and you need some more funding until you start getting money from the lawsuits, right?
Correct. Understand that it's not easy for somebody with families and all to pick up and come do what I've done, but everything happens for a reason. I don't have to worry about me, my animals, whatever. I was able to come down here, pack up my vehicle, come down. I never expected to be this long, and now I find out it's even going longer, up to 18 months. So I was able to do that, but I have run out of money, and it takes many, many moons to get paid. And again, trying to get people to finish the paperwork. I've finally found a way of getting things working here. It was new for me, so it was a lot of experimental trial and error and learning how to deal with people down here and stuff from that. And they say, oh, you're not from here, how dare you? Excuse me, but when I moved to Michigan, I moved from Florida, so don't go there.
Right, yeah.
Anything that happens on this planet, we all feel it, we all know it, and the ocean has always been my home, and that just really hurt me. And I don't care where I'm from. If I can come help you, let's do it.
Yes, thank you so much for saying that, Colleen. Amen to that. Who cares what? That's totally divide and conquer and division and the virus of the mind of separation. Yes. Who cares where from? You're here to contribute to this very important cause that we are all, responsible at some level for, right?
Right, and we're all one, and when one of us is hurting, the rest of us is hurting in some way, and that's, the reason you hurt other people, but the point is there are people coming to help. There are people here. To me, it was just like coming home in a way, because the ocean was always my home, and I'll always live by an ocean in the future wherever I go. It was like I was away for I couldn't stand it, and it just, it made me so happy to be back here and to see when I still see stuff coming up on the beach that people don't realize it's the dispersed oil from the chemical, and they step in it, and then they're like trying to get it off their foot. I do see the things they can't see. I do understand what's going on and how the big business has, tried to win. Now, as it is, they're not completely winning here. They've lost many appeals forward. And I intend to, matter of fact, I had a conference call with somebody from that I work with here doing this that helps me. And I said, you know what, I'm here to do this. I'll continue to do this as long as it's, viable and going. And we're still, going. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Until you get the next call for the next phase, right?
Right. What what my call was to discuss what as a company would they be doing after this whole BP thing ends, which is down the road, by the way. I'm hearing it could be 18 months. And explaining it to me, and ended up going for a couple hours, and said, you seem to be one of our best go-getters out there to help people. And if you're interested, after they explained it to me, this is what we will be doing, in the future, and if you want to train on it one day a week so that by the time you are ready, you can find something else to do. I said, hey, this is something I can do. I can do it from, at my pace, at my physical limits and abilities. So I was very excited to hear that somebody appreciated what I was doing and was willing to help me go on to further things in the future. But I hate to say it this way, but there's changes in the world happening right now, and people don't know it and see it right away, but it amazes me at even some of the most sleepy-headed kind of people, sheeple as I like to call them, who are so not aware of what's going on around them in the world. Even they're starting to see things change. And I talked to somebody who I talked to, for the last couple of years, last few years, and I said, remember I told you about these changes, as slow as they may have been? You're seeing it now, aren't you? And they go, yes, absolutely. Everything.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Now, I have the option to do other things when this ends, but the way I see it, that's down the road. I'll worry about that then. I have other callings that I know are burning for me, and there's one that has to do with a lot more of the light work, and I can do in my evenings or off times that I'm not doing this because it won't take as much time, obviously.
Yeah.
And it'll be my next one. I can do that working side by side with this, and I need to do it. I feel a great need to do it, and I need to get the funding to do that. Now, the way I see it, if you've got somebody willing to do all this, by all means, support them the best you can. Yeah, I can't imagine what that is, just for the sake of all the people involved. But it is doing light work and different things which are going to help everybody on this planet as we move forward. And I know some people who might not have a clue to what I'm just talking about, but there are many of those of light who understand exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I feel that great need, and we will put that project up within a couple weeks, side by side. And the chances with can do that off to the side on weekends and at night, and I can still do this. Now, my intent, and even when I had that call today, as I said, I intend to do this. This is where I am at. This is what I'm here for. And they said, that's great because you're one of our best. Please keep doing it. And they said, this is what I got to do, but I've got to start bringing in funds somehow. I can't serve. I mean, I'm down $100 here. We're in trouble. So, I need to do something. And the whole thing about crowdfunding is so beautiful in that way because it really doesn't take too much from each. It takes a little bit from many, which it's very organic and it makes a lot of sense compared to, go to the bank and getting some loan that you're not doing. Because, of course, small businesses and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs are not the choice for banks to lend money to. They lend money to, they do it among themselves, for the Wall Street gambling casino. The crowdfunding is emerging as a very amazing alternative to, in the long run, basically, don't have to deal with the banks. The thing about this is that, we fund you today, you fund me tomorrow, and we fund you tomorrow. It's like anybody who has a call of their sole purpose right now that has this internal need to do something like you've been doing, should be supported by the system. So we are creating through crowdfunding this. There are other ways to do it, to get funds, and we're going all about those. But right now we're talking about crowdfunding, which is emerging as a very powerful tool for everybody, especially because they lifted the ban that said that it was in September 2013. There was a ban that investors could not fund any projects
unless they had a relationship with the person. That ban was lifted at the end of 2013, and that's one of the reasons why crowdfunding is taking this incredible toll. So yes, the way I see it is that, we all support you, and again, if somebody that's willing to support you right now and at the same time have, a calling for something, we can also help them, on our side from the Hawk team and the Hawk mindset, to articulate that message and to literally start doing the same so that we can all, get out of the rat race and we can start seeing what we cannot see when we are in the rat race, or we are, also that everybody that has a project, with new energy or inventors, so many creative people that are coming up with so many beautiful things, that they would be completely funded so that their process can be expedited and it can benefit society in a whole, in a faster way.
Right, and I'm glad that you mentioned the crowdfunding and the free energy, because some of the things that I'll be working on once I get done with the oil spill, there is the one project, like I said, that I'll put, we'll put up, Luce and I, in the future here, to do some of the late work here on the side that needs to be done. We have to get the information out. We have to help the people in the key places to get the changes done, and that's what I intend to do. And then one of the other projects that we were going to work on after this, or as soon as the time is right, when we get done with this, and we're going to use crowdfunding to help sponsor that as well. And then the individuals doing it, there's an entire team of us
right.
included. And it had to do with free energy and homes, self-sufficient homes called Hyatt Homes. And Fernando is leading that project, but we're going to use the crowdfunding in that. And the wonderful thing about the crowdfunding is we no longer need the system and the banks to tell us what we can do and what we can't do. We need to work together once again, and we realize that, hey, you know what, let's help you with this because it's progressing all of us forward to what we want, free energy, this, that, this, and that, and there's people out there willing to do it. So let's help this one, and then, we can go help that one, and we can go help this, and it all gets us everything we want without having to deal with restrictions of banks or people or whatever. I mean, they're willing. And Lucy, I know you and I, we talked about helping others do exactly what I'm doing and helping them with their soul contracts and their desires that they need to do certain things. And this is kind of a pilot program. My funding site is crowdfunding, and then it's Gulf Devastation Help. And that's kind of a pilot program for us to, get going and show people, hey, this works, this is how it works, and let us help you do it as well. And we can get the whole world working together, and it's working. You've heard this all over the news here the last few weeks, how crowdfunding is taking off and is outdoing banks. Banks won't be needed anymore because people know that banks are not the place to go. I mean, look, you give
all
them
the
money.
All the investors are going through crowdfunding now.
But the bank, look, you give what did they give you? 2%? 5.5%?
Yeah, I know.
And then when you give them the money, or they loan you money, they're charging you how much interest?
I know, up to 50% or more.
No,
honestly, yeah.
And we have crowdfunding where we all just work together. It's like, somebody like me who's out trying to do these things, we're helping them. Somebody who's going to work on it. I mean, look at Hope Girl. She came out working on the QEGs. She was crowdfunding. That where she needed to go on to everything else. So we decided let's start help all over the news how crowdfunding is the new way to go. And, there's loads of the and other people who want to help, but they can't. They can't pick up their family and go, but they can, put in a few bucks. And, if Luz, explain to them how that works, how that little bit from everybody helps them to bring a lot of money. Explain that to them.
Yeah, it's not only bring money, but it's bring the solutions, which is the part that's most fascinating. It's the real solution, so that your time, which is your currency, is not used in just, pressing a button every 1 minute in a corporation, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Which is wasteful,
Right. And, what is it? If everybody gave so much money, say, just we'll use the $90 mark since that's something that we talked about before, but, you take how many people, 300 or 200?
Yeah, 20, I think for 27,000, the QEG, they raised, I think it was 93 at 300, $90 at 300 people. I mean, it's pretty decent, normal, for such a thing. And then if you eventually you do equity with that, then because equity crowdfunding is in the making, is not really defined yet, but you can literally, offer people eventually parts of your benefits, right?
Right, exactly.
They can become your board of directors. Instead of having a board of directors, you have a people's board of directors, which is very different.
Right, and when people find a cause that speaks to their heart or their, their soul, they can go ahead and now feel free to donate money, help that person accomplish it. Like we're working on the free energies, we're working on the self-sustaining homes, we're working on helping people in the Gulf, or somebody is helping, to help pay for somebody's medical bills, or they're wanting to go to school. Whatever it is, do you see what they show about the student loans and how the government is making more on student loans than the Fortune 500 companies all put together?
It's so insane. It's beyond insane.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could all just get together and help each other? And what it's doing is it's bettering us, because once we get these free energies and these self-sustaining homes and even healing homes and stuff like this going, we're not going to have to pay for that electricity, that heat bill.
Yeah, and we won't have, and very soon we're going to move to a currency-less society anyway, because of the energy, the new energy. So, this entire thing is a very good transition to that.
Exactly. So, it's just, these are the things that crowdfunding helps. It helps people do the things to help society and people that not everybody can do. Not everybody, majority of the world can't pick up and go do stuff, but there's some people like us who can do something, and we can accomplish their own goals, and that's why it's important.
Yes, and I wanted to say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I also wanted to say that, as you said before, as you mentioned, we are creating a copywriting team because we are helping people apply. If they know what they have to say is one thing, but then we need to apply some marketing to it so that we really get the information in the person, that's going to be the fit for us, right?
Exactly. And so we've created the copywriting team, and we're going to show other people to help them get their goals as well, that they can do to help society or whatever their mission in their life is to do.
Because usually the copywriting people know how to say, they know what they have to say from their heart, but they don't know how to say it in marketing terms and in the sequence and the frequencies. So that's what we are helping with, which is really important.
And
because it's
people,
real internet marketing. Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to write. They get scared. They go, I don't know how to do this, and they just give up. Don't give up. Then there's people like us to help you get these things done. And help you, because that's why we're doing this, one, to help me continue on, but then to also show others that they can do this. And we have learned doing this ourselves, obviously with all our years of experience, how to help others accomplish the same thing. And it's a great way for everybody to get together and work together and help each other, and accomplish all the goals that we want to accomplish. We want to help people get back their lives down in the Gulf region and, get whatever retribution is sitting there for them, and there's very sick people and dead people in the future. If they're coughing up blood, they're not going to survive too much longer, right? And that's sad. There's nothing I can do about that, but I can help everybody who's lost so much, has gone through divorces, they've made it so far and they just can't hold on anymore. They've lost everything. Let's help them try to rebuild their lives the best way we can. And it might be 4 years, but I hate to tell you, it's still going strong. And, help the people get what, they can, because they're still trying to rebuild. People think it's a year or two and you're rebuilt. No, it's not. This is the first year that they're really going strong down here, and not in all parts. And that's because people are starting to come back. And, I hate to say it, but I won't swim in the ocean or eat anything out of it for 10 years. But, other people are starting to come back, so let's help them with that. Now, I know, Luce, we've talked about something in the shungite, and I'm going to experiment with it down here west of here at some point in time here when we get it. But it's got some properties and has the water where it comes from. It's not from this planet, but where it is, and we're not going to mention anything about all that, but where it comes from, that water base is completely pure and clear. And wouldn't it be great if we find some other remedies that are more natural to help clean up some as well? So there's multiple things going on, right? We're trying to
and that's another project that we have very close. So you're going to be, reporting on that, telling people, about the results of that. We're kind of like figuring out how to do that, to do a testing with the shungite.
Right. People don't realize the cost involved in doing all of this. I mean, the gas money, unfortunately, we don't have the free energy in the cars yet, the engines and stuff. But the gas money, the housing, the food, the traveling, the wear and tear, and all involved, it's so much more than just what you can hear on a phone call. And the costs are up there, but there's many things we're working on them. The dolphins are sick. There's people down there trying to work with them and help them and watch them and everything else. So there's a whole lot going on down here, more than just a phone call can explain.
Yes, and it's so important to bring that story out also. This is one of the reasons why we did this call, because, again, the blood stain in the Gulf kind of stays in our hearts, but it's really difficult to visualize, kind of what's really happening in the field.
Right. And, there's some people down here, and I know that we took a punch in the gut the first day. It was like, whoa. And there's twofold on that. There are people paid to discredit people in this planet. You've got to believe that, because at the time. And there are people there to just be angry. And they're angry. They're in a bad place. They've been through a lot. They've lost a lot. And they want to blame everybody else, but, where the blame truly. So I don't take it personal. I looked at it and I said, okay, well, part of you are probably paid to just cause trouble, and part of you are just probably really in a bad place. So I took that information and I went back and made some adjustments. And I said, you know what, I'm still down here to do this, and I'm sorry if that just is something, the blame doesn't come to me. You need to point it to who caused the devastation, and that's not me. I'm here to help you. Not your enemy. I am your best friend right now. So it truly belongs, and I do realize that there are people paid down in places to cause trouble and problems and discredit and put out false information and all of this, and I'm aware of that. That's why I was so open on this call about my past, which nobody really even knows, and that's about as much of my past as I remember. But that being said, but why? Because there's nothing to hide. It's all experiences. We just move forward. I have my brain mostly healed That's the nice part about it. My brain, most people wouldn't know. A matter of fact, putting myself to the internet and forcing myself to learn and educate. I have a medical background. I have a hell of a brain to be able to do that. So, it was just the next thing, and nothing was holding me down. It's a roadblock. How do you get past it? But my brain mostly healed, and I'm one of the lucky ones, really, because it did. But I still have mistakes. I still have the physical problems. So for me, I'm more detailed-orientated because of the brain problem, and that's just memory thing. So I'm detailed-orientated. I have my own little system. I got my notes. And if anything, I'm extremely thorough, and people can't believe how thorough I am.
You are amazing. I attest to that.
I don't know why.
Yes.
If you only knew, that's how I remember everything, So, so I was lucky enough. So I know how to do what I do. I train myself. Yeah, I had my stuttering problems in the beginning while I was down here. New area, new place, new people, new cultures, new beliefs, different things. Down here, very open, very happy, very joyful, very, nice people. You're not going to get better down to earth, decent, nice people as you're going to get in the South. You really aren't. You go up and, you'd think that they're angry up there, but they're not. It's just the way the cultures are different.
Right.
They're colder, if you will. So it kind of matches the climate sometimes. But, but I can bring that to me. I can bring that down here. And I don't take things as personally. And people might they might have their bouts of outbursts. They might whatever. And I've made great friends down here. I really have. So, to me, it's just like, I'm here to help you, and I can only help you as much as you let. And, and they're doing it. Now, the word of mouth is spreading. Hey, she is down here. Yes, she is real. I've had people checking in people. I've got references, and this takes time to build something like this. And so maybe it's that the time frame has been extended because of the appeals and such, and this is going on longer because it'll allow me to reach more people. And my goal is to help as many as I can get the retribution they deserve, do what I can down here to see if we have a cure for helping to clean up some of the water and some of the toxicity and whatever. And I've got friends, people I know working on trying to help with the dolphins and cure that. So, we're down here doing a lot more than meets the eye. And just judge by, like I said, this is all you're doing. No, really, it's not. You have no idea.
I know. When you're in your sole purpose, it's like, you're doing so many things. It's ridiculous. It's amazing.
Right, Bruce? I mean, we're talking at all ungodly hours of the day, night, morning.
I know.
And we're always doing something, and we're all getting other people's heads. And these people don't have to live here or live in their area or wherever. We just get together and we mastermind and we use our thoughts, and somebody else comes up with something else, and somebody else comes up with this, and we all work together to help. And that's the way it should be, working together to help each other.
Yeah, and especially when you're an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you totally need a mastermind because it's just such a lonely trip. Because, as you said, you lost everything. Many people run away when you see you lose everything. They really run away. It's very difficult for them to deal with because they are at 1 or 2 steps from you anyway, So it is a very complicated thing. So if you have a mastermind group with like-minded people, who are over the loss thing, over the, oh my God, my house, my car, whatever, that are completely above and beyond that, it's a totally different thing because then you really expedite things. It reinforces, it acknowledges it's really important. So, and Colleen and I are part of, Colleen is part of my team, of the HOG team also. So we are creating this copywriting team because even if you have to set up a profile, you need to really include, the elements of marketing of the 21st century, not the ones that, that are like, okay, I'm going to put a banner announcing this, because there are 2,000 banners per day that we watch every day, and it's too much. So we need to kind of create the conversation in a different way, because it's all about rebuilding trust and truth also, and transparency, right?
Right. And, we were talking today how even what we learned back in the beginning just a few years ago, it's different from that. It's completely changed.
Yeah.
And technology, it's changing constantly, and we're always on top of it. And the average person would be overwhelmed and lost and walk away from it in the beginning, right at step one.
Yeah, exactly. Very important. So, so we are, it's going to be, the thing is that it's about also educating people about crowdfunding. Not only, it's also about, as you said before, we're experimenting this experiencing and experimenting, because we are all co-creating a new world. So, nobody has the formula. We are all creating the formula, recreating it, rethinking it, right?
Right. And, when they're touching base about when people run away from you, when they find out you lost everything. There's people down here, why don't you go buy this, go buy that? Well, one, I'm on disability, and two, I lost everything, so there won't be the credit to any of that. And they look at you, and then all of a sudden you're not quite up to par, right? But here's the deal. In Michigan, it was like that in the beginning. It was always like that. If you had the money, you were great. In Michigan, a lot of it had some good money. Like I said, I was at the third county. But then it took, literally, in the beginning when the collapses happened, everybody was greedy. And it came down to people having to start to work together. It took the devastation of Michigan for me to see people starting to work together instead of fighting against each other. And I started to see people come together. And, when you lose all of that, here's something else you learn when you start to awaken, is this material stuff really doesn't mean anything. I've been traveling now for months, and I have everything I need wherever I'm at. Yeah, there's a couple things I'd be like.
We don't need much to be happy and because we're so excited with what we're doing. It's like no time to even, Yeah, it's a totally different idea of life. Yes, completely.
I don't have the most expensive car on the block anymore, but I have a nice car that's reliable, and that's what I needed, reliable and space.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have decent space, so, it gave me what I needed, what I wanted. Would I prefer a newer model? Absolutely, but hey, there's really not much wrong with this one, so what am I complaining of? So you relearn what's important and what's not. And maybe it took, me to go back a bit and realize that all this material stuff I had really wasn't important, and having that kind of weighs you down. Because really, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of, how do I get rid of all that stuff up there so I don't have to bring it all down here? I want to further missions after this. I want to get down and start working on the Hyatt homes. I want to work on the free energy. I want to do this. I can't do that and keep, paying on all my stuff up there. So, now I dissolve some of that. How do I get rid of it?
It's an abstraction. Yeah, it gets in the way. Exactly. It happened to me too. Yeah.
I've got to do something with it. If anything, it's costing me money because I'm paying on a place there and here, and it's just not feasible at this point. So you learn that all of that's just not so important. And, you'll always have what you need. And some places I've been in have been very nice, and some I've been in have been very, old, but they're all clean, decent. So, the material thing's not there, but people look at that, but then they look and see what I'm doing, and then they realize after they get to know me, they go, you're sharp, you're very intelligent. And I said, no kidding. So it's not like they go in there, we're going to stay down long. And I said, no, there's only one way to go is up, and I've been working and training on myself to do that. But now instead of worrying about the 3D world of materialism, I'm worried about our future, the free energy of healing, of all sorts of great things and cleaning this planet, and I could care less about the rest. Just give me the money I need to do what I do and let me go, because I will go.
Exactly. Okay, so that's great, Colleen. So I think we can wrap up, right? Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say how awesome it was that we finally started to get to working together on something that we both felt the need for, and how much I appreciate you guiding me through this and getting this out to the people and letting them know about it and about the crowdfunding and how we can help other people get their missions going in life, whatever that may be, or their needs or wants. And I appreciate having you around and all the talking, and over the years that even though we didn't work together earlier, we always stayed in touch. We always had common goals, and down the road we found those that split off to the material and those that split off to the light. And it seems like all of us that did the internet, that did the currencies, that did whatever, we found ourselves in the same pool of light. And we all came together, and we're all coming together even more and finding out we had the same goals, the same ambitions, the same missions, and that we're all combining ourselves, however little different it may be. But, I appreciate everything.
Oh, my God. So true. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's perfect.
Well,
that's perfect. I feel the same way. I'm very excited because we make a very good team, and we can literally help a lot of people doing the copywriting. That's so important, because even if you need to make a profile, you need to do it with, crowdfunding, you cannot do it just, okay, I'm going to advertise a profile there. It's not going to work. It needs a campaign, it needs, a plan, it needs a lot of elements that are really important. So that's what we are coming through here with, and I'm excited, as you are, working with you, Colleen, because you know how important it is to have a partner anyway. So,
right. This is,
and I have several partners in several other, other endeavors that I'm in, but this thing of we're so much on the same page, and it's so easy to work. I'm very excited about this project together also. So, and the ones that are coming in the future anyway, right?
Right, and people need
to
this didn't just come about real quick, easy, and simple. We've been working on this for days, a couple of weeks. We've been working on this. Well, I didn't have my voice. I was squeaking on you. We've been working on this and writing. It's so important to do it correctly and do the writing and doing this and doing that. I mean, it's not something you're just going to come up with a page and think you're going to get something. It's not going to happen that way. I mean, it requires a massive team effort and, people working together and that's, want to make sure people don't think it's, I can go do this myself real simple. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're offering that.
Okay, my dear. So thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We are going to keep you posted, and we're going to post this video in the Soul Hangout channel and in Colleen's GoFundMe page.
Well,
thank you so much, Colleen, for your contribution. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me on the call and helping out.
You're welcome, darling. So bye, everybody, and we'll keep you posted until the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.